How's it going, everyone? Session here. Welcome to the Final Fantasy XIV letter from the producer live number 89. I'm going to just do a summary of what we covered throughout the live letter from earlier this morning and really just cover a lot of the topic conversations. I'll give you my thoughts and feedback about what I think that they've addressed so far. There's a lot of things to cover and a lot of things to think about and talk about for the future, and also kind of what to look forward to in terms of the content and the patches to come. So let's just knock out like the big one, because this one blew everybody's mind way out the water. People were freaking out about it. I know I was. And so let's just quickly address the gigantic elephant in the room. Now, it's very clear we have an aura female. Looking cute. She got the Dark Knight weapon equipped. She's doing the victory pose emote, but she's wearing a white mage robe. Okay. Which, like, is very insane. I know that I, like, triple taked when I saw this. So it's officially here, coming to us in December 16th. Here is a Pictomancer currently wearing Paladin attire. Like, that's literally the artifact gear for Paladin being equipped to a Rothgar, but they're using the Pictomancer weapon. Okay. So, like, again, that's what's happening. And then, even more so, here's a Dragoon player who is wearing fishing gear. So, to summarize what you're looking at, as a Glamour update coming to 7.4, it is official that you can use any gear in your Glamours, irrespective of class, job, or level restriction. This is the biggest change that this game has been looking for since the beginning of time. I know for sure that it didn't make a big deal of it when it was like older expansions, right? When you only had like, ARR, Heaven's Ward, and like Stormblood. But then the more and more stuff we kept on getting, the more it became like a realization of like, oh my gosh. And when I mean like it's irrespective, that means like you saw, right? Dark Knight equipping a white mage gear, which means that like job stuff is completely unrestricted now. So you can use any piece of gear you want from anywhere and put it on any job. You can be a crafter, like a carpenter, using the Dragoon armor, which like seems so bizarre, but the thing is it's happening, right? But so in my personal mindset, I think that, well, first of all, this is incredible. The fact that you can wear any job, I think beforehand, like younger me didn't like this. I didn't like the idea of a white mage wearing like heavy tank armor. It just like didn't really make sense to me. But then I'm really hypocritical because I play tank now, and like there's some caster gear that looks incredible that I would love to wear as a tank. So I didn't want to, like, you know what I mean? But now that they're actually making the gear thing completely universal across the board for every job and every class, like, this is the biggest win this game has been looking for from the player basis feedback for the longest of times. It's been like literally 12 years in counting where we've been waiting for this thing to happen, and it's happening. So like December 16th, not even like it'll be like 6 weeks or so before we get to insane. Right? So that's the first big change. But additionally to this, because it's also level restricted, one of the biggest problems that I also have with this game that no longer is an issue is that you can wear a level 70, 60, 50, 40 weapon and wear a glamour piece that's at level 190 and etc. So like, and they really mean like it doesn't matter anymore. That restriction is dead. So I could literally go into Fru, the newest ultimate, level 100, clear that fight twice, because whatever. Let's say I go clear it as a white mage, I can get the white mage cane, I can go back in and go get the dragoon weapon. And because Lancer is a job you get at level 1, and it's not a job crystal thing, you get Lancer, you can literally be a level 1 Lancer and glam and eat an ultimate Fru weapon on like your weathered spear. So like that's huge, because for me especially, like, one of the biggest problems that this game has always run into is that whenever you encounter like newer jobs, they have less stuff to play with when it comes to glamour and ideas and that sort of thing. Like, to a small degree, and it's just as bad for like older jobs as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but the thing is, like, it's becoming more like freedom that you can literally do whatever you want now. And they literally mean like whatever you want. It's actually like, I'm still like dumbfounded by this. Now they also note that due to the impact animations, weapons and tools can't be equipped or can only be equipped by corresponding classes, so like a two-handed sword, glamour with like a two-handed sword. So like if you're playing like Dark Knight is literally like a two-handed job thing, so you can't put like an offhand shield or like a tool on like from like armor, for example. It's just not going to give you the ability to do so, which makes sense, like whatever. But you can like at a black mage, you know, you can probably wear like a one-handed staff and do like a two-handed thing, but you probably can't have like a shield on it. I'd be surprised by that actually. Like if I wore like a, because like most black mage weapons after like level 50 are two-handed staves, you probably can't equip a shield to that, which like it's fine. I don't know many people who want to wear shields on. I mean, but like I guess now you can. Like we'll find out when we get there. Right. So like that's like the only really caveat, which is like fine. But the thing is like the fact that you can now wear any gear piece at all. I was trying to do the math when I was watching this, and I thought it was a multiplier of 8, but it's actually a multiplier of like 22 or like 30,000. It's insane actually. Multiplier almost times like 30 because you got to think about every single job thing that's like equivalent to like the number, right? So like if you're like a paladin, you can officially wear 32 other jobs, right? Because you got like all the crafters and gatherers that have their unique gear. You got the healers and the melees and the range and the casters that have their unique gear. There's tank gear within their own class that's also particular. And it's also clearly like it's artifact gear that's only specified towards one job as well is also universal. Not to mention they're still working on double dyeing things, so we're still going to get that update, and they're going to double dye pieces over the course of time as well, which again, like absolutely stellar change. I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised if a lot of people are not going to be seen in in like local cities because they're going to be too busy looking at glamour stuff inside their coffer in the in room. Now that being said, they did confirm that they're going to increase the glamour count. So like, I think right now you can have like 800 slots. They're aware that because they unlock the thing entirely, they're going to want more slots, which like I'm not going to be surprised if they increase it by like 200 to 1,000 or they double it to like almost like 1,500. That'd be kind of sick actually. But like we'll see when we get there because like there's a lot of gear. Like I'm telling you right now, every piece of gear that you've denied because you've never had a reason to equip it is up for grabs now, and that works especially because like crafters like me, like I omni craft, right? So I can't equip like a goldsmith chest piece because like if I put it on like a weaver, it doesn't work. But now that freedom's available, which is sick actually. So I can't wait. So yeah. Now let's just cover 7.38 because they did mention it in the live letter today. So essentially 7.38 comes out in November 11th, which is 12 days from now. They're going to be removing the weekly limit for Savage tier, which is not the favorited news that people wanted to hear. They usually release the Savage tier at the point 8 or point X8 series of like the patch or whatever, which is like, you know, they're still kind of committing to it at the moment. I know that people want this to be removed even sooner, and it's understandable too. And I'm thinking that like because they've been so receptive to feedback recently, they may look into this in the future. But right now, like since we're currently going through an active Savage raid tier, for 3 whole entire tiers, they may not look into it this time, but fingers crossed they look into it in the next one. I understand that they might like people might want this now, but you might not get it because again, like they have like a fixed schedule. What they have scheduled between now and FanFest is completely strictly like being followed suit outside of feedback. So like don't expect the heavyweight tier to get this freedom sooner, but also we can be surprised. So we'll see. Additionally, coins from the Alliance raids will be exchanged for Esther. That's for augmenting the weapon system you can do too. And then also there is a new furnishing item added to the treasure coffers when you do the Alliance raids in Stormblood, which is the official Evilise Chronicles box art for Final Fantasy Tactics that just recently came out. So this is the actual box art available if you go buy like a copy, and they're allowing this to be available across the board in Evilise raids, which is incredible. Now, with that being said, we officially have the art for patch 7.4, and it looks godlike. It's so Arcadian, it's perfect. I'm in love with this design, and it actually gives us a lot. It gives us a lot of information and even like some theory crafting about what they're going to do with the heavyweight tier. And also, the official title of the patch is called Into the Mist, which tells quite a lot of information. So the mist is a very heavily referenced to a thing that happens in Final Fantasy IX, which makes sense though because the entire expansion is solely focused on like a lot of concepts with FF9 in terms of the main storyline scenario for both the story for MSQ, but even also a little bit with the raids here. So this does make like a little bit of sense, and like we're gonna just get, like learn more information about this to come as well. So officially the heavy raids here is here. Now I have a theory about this that I want to kind of put into perspective. So the cover art makes a lot of sense. So on the far right, you've got like the defeated opponents, and on entering like this the left side, right, we're going to actually acquire some of the newer components that we're going to see. So for example, let's kind of go through the listing, right? So on the bottom right, we got Black Cat, who was our M1. We got Honeybee Lovely over here on the other side too, and that makes sense too. So it's M3. M3's got Brute Bomb over here. YouTube is on the top right on as like M4. Then we got Dancer Agreement M5. Sugar at the bottom M6. Bomber again, a bomb on the other side M7, which okay. And then we have Hector, aka Howling Blade, over here in the centerpiece, which I think is actually a critical piece of information, I'll tell you. And then we have the new contenders on the left side. So we have an Elizin. I don't know who the guy is above, but whatever. And then there's the Viera right next to them, right above Honeybee. So assuming those three people will be contenders in that kind of aspect, and the big guy that's going to be at the very top, that's going to be looking at us, is it? I'm assuming it's the champion, the heavyweight champion, like official. Now, here's kind of my thought process behind the rates here, because if you were to count through, and I'll count with you as well, right? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11 people. There's 11 people listed here for the raids here because they used Brute Bomber twice with 3 and 7, right? I have a theory and a predicted. I'm not under the impression. I think the champion is still going to be the big guy in the cover art. I think that's M11. I don't think that's going to be M12. I don't think so. I'm under the impression, just kind of going off of the story mode by like a little bit. They do showcase the arena, which as you can see here, this is a very like gladiator style looking like arena. It clearly is like the apex of like, hey, like we're here, we've made it. Not to mention, there's weapons that are kind of like in the background, if you can tell. They look like Reaper scythes to me, which tells me that like one of the boss, the contenders, like their weapon style is like Reaper, which is pretty fascinating, honestly. So like we'll see what that looks like. So I'm under the impression that there's a couple things. Firstly, I think that we're not done with Howling Blade in terms of story functionality, because the storyline for Arcadian is putting us on the precipice that like this whole thing is like a plot behind the scenes, right? Because a lot of wrestling, like WWE is like very like they tell stories. Arcadian's doing the exact same thing, but there's like a secret thing happening, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with the transformation thing with the eyes. And I already forgot the name of the thing, but like it's whatever. So, anywho, some of the people are trying to not be involved in the process directly because they're unaware of it, right? Like seeking immortality, experimentations, like that whole spiel. So we'll see who's like directly involved in the process. But like the thing is that Brute Bomber and Howling Blade were two people that were like they were made in the Arcadian. So their commitment to the Arcadian is like completely like they're locked in 10 toes. Now, Bomber actually turns into the Abominator, and he sacrifices his life for everything on it, and he's like gone. I think Howling Blade's secretly not okay with that. Not even secretly. I think it's very pretty. I think it's more obvious he's not okay with that. But also I think that because Eutrope at some point as Wicked Thunder used to be Arcadian heavyweight and got brought back down to being like an exhibition lightweight heavyweight tier, I think that's telling something. So I'm expecting the story to actually implicate a situation where I kind of low-key think there's going to be a 2 boss fight situation. I think I might even expect it with 2 of the fights, because I'm still thoroughly convinced that the president is involved in this entire thing. The president person who's responsible for the whole Arcadian, I think he's still number 12. I think that guy has to be 12. But like, I don't know. So we'll see. So I'm under the impression right now that like, if we had to really put like some thoughts into it, I think M9 could be one of the contenders. Like either the Elzin on the bottom left or the person right above is M9. I think M10 could be either the guy that's above the person the Elzen, or it's uh like a Howling Blade like in Wicked Thunder combo situation, which would be like fascinating. I'm kind of sort of expecting like a two boss fight scenario scene. I do not know why. I'm trying to think if we ever had that situation in was there one in Endwalker by any chance? Wait. Let's see. No, there was nothing in terms of the double boss fight thing. Okay, cool. We did get one Shadowbringer, so like yeah, whatever. So I'm kind of under the impression that like a huge trope Howling Blade combo is going to happen for some reason in one of those fights, but then it's not going to make sense for the President thing though, because like if the Ellison is like M9, the other guy's M10, Uchope and Howling are M11, then this guy's M12, and like that's the finale. So maybe maybe like Blade and Thunder may not be like a combo boss fight, but I'm under the impression that they could do something of the nature. So like we'll see. And I'll dive into this even more so too, but I want to make sure we cover at least some of the bases that we have to cover throughout the standardization of like the patch. So patch 7.4 is coming Tuesday, December 16th. This has been predicted for an eternity ago. Like we already know this. We're going to get the heavyweights here normal on that patch day release, along with the new tombstone of mnemonics. They're going to get rid of heliometry. We're going to get mathematics as the new heliometry, so that'd be really cool. New craftable gear, which will be used for the race here, which is just pretty cool. But also the big change is that like for January 6th, post Christmas and post New Year's, we're getting the Savage tier. They're delaying it by 2 weeks. I think by the feedback again, this is a very heavy feedback based patch and live letter. So I'm under the heavy impression that like because of the situation, they're going to be incorporating this post all of the festivities, which is going to raise a couple eyebrows, but also like be logically understood. Because that's 4 weeks of tomes. Normally it's like 2 weeks, right? You get the normal rates here, and then like a week later you get the Savage raid, and then like boom. Now, they actually made it very clear in the translations that it's not going to really affect like the regular raiders that are not world first raiders or hardcore raiders. I mean, maybe like hardcore like a little bit, but we'll see. But realistically, like world first people will have an easier time potentially, depending on how difficult the raid tier is. We don't have any insight on the heavyweights here as of right now, but we understand that we're getting 4 weeks worth of tomes. That's a lot of more tomes to acquire over the course of time in comparison to just being able to go in with 2 weeks, right? Because like normally your item level is kind of like at in this current recent example we had like 741.133 or something like that, or 16. So we're going to be closer to like 743, which like depending on how what you can acquire, you can get all 3 accessories, or you can get like 2 accessories and let's say like a chest piece, like a hand piece. I don't know like the exact numbers, but like there's a lot you can acquire. You can get the chest piece and the leg piece. Just know that much. If you have 4 weeks worth of tomes, if you actually complete it, that's a lot of tomes to acquire. So the fact that you're going to be able to get 1,800 to spend and play around with is an extensive number. So like we'll see how it plays out. So yeah, but officially though, it's coming after the festivities. So that's cool because like people can celebrate with their family, they can do the holiday things, usual tradition, and they come back to it in full swing, which is great. Additionally, there's new MSQ. Some of the imagery is very like telling and like really thick, like a big like thought process, right? Because like obviously we're not really under the immediate impression of like what we're looking at. This looks like living memory, but I'm not entirely too sure. So like we'll kind of get like a better idea of it, of course, going into the next live letter in like a month or so. The detail on this level, they're holding like a thing. I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's like solution, not technology. Like we'll see. The sweat detail is very fascinating, actually. I'm really glad to see that they're playing with the graphics like a little bit more. I'm also under the impression that eventually they won't do this now, but they might do this later, where they may like deprecate PS4 and like Xbox One support. Like we'll see though, because a lot of games are starting to kind of push away from like older consoles. This game could benefit a lot from that, but they also could. It'd be great to kind of provide support for those older console players to come into the newer generation and then be ready to kind of play the video game as it's intended. So fingers crossed that they do that with like a positive mentality and an intention. But I don't want to necessarily kick out players who are still playing on PS4 and Xbox One. But also like it's been a very long time. This game definitely could use like the next upgrade for it too. So there's new Hildebrand, of course, and I mean, like take with it as you want to. Then we have the new dungeon called Mistwake, and my immediate thought process to this was like it's like a factory, and it could do a lot of things for like experimentation. So because we're at 7.4, this is the teaser preparation for what will eventually become the starting foundation for 8.0's storytelling. It's not immediately clear as to what we're leaning towards right now, because I think we're still trying to figure out some of the things that's happening in living memory in preparation for what's coming in 7.5 and then eventually 8.0. But this dungeon kind of has some insight that really does garner like a lot of thought processes. During the stream, I thought that it was going to be involving like this scene, especially like it just seems like it's a mechanical preparation for like a thing. So my immediate answer was like, oh my gosh, it'd be crazy if like the train from FF8 is like a thing. But I was also thinking about the cage from FF9. But it's because like a lot of the storytelling for this has done a lot of like, Calyx like messing with things and like turning things into like robots and like vice versa, like really big like experimentation. So because we recently dealt with things like Zelenia and Necron, where like they kind of play with some of those aspects, I was immediately, oh, it'd be crazy if they had like the reverse situation where like you go from like a machine thing and turn it into like an organics thing. And then lo behold, to my shocking, like just guess in the dark, the trial that they announced for this as well is literally the train, which I don't know how I even came up with that in the moment, but like, dude, it was crazy to realize that that's actually what they came up with. So we have the new normal and extreme trial for 7.4 patch. It's officially going to be called Hell on Wheel, or Hell on Rails, Hell on Rails, yeah. And like we'll see. Now that being said, though, this is an FF8 boss, not FF9, but it's taking kind of sort of place in like an FF9 area, kind of sort of conceptually. So hopefully they don't play like the typical battle scene of like the FF8 music, as good as it is, but we already had that in Shadowbringers, so they should absolutely play Laguna's theme during this. That would be cool to play the machine theme, because like it's a fucking machine, and also one of the best songs that they've ever composed of the entire history of the game. So hopefully they put things in perspective. And like, let me tell you, this thing looks kind of like crazy actually. So it's also powered by like Electra, which is like fascinating. So like, yo, we'll find out what they got going on. But it really does like ask a lot of questions about like what are they experimenting with the situation. I don't know how they got here though. So, but I was still shocked that the train was involved. Temporarily coming back to the rates here, right? So this is one of the contenders that we're going to be dealing with. I'm assuming that she, again, either like M9, M10. We'll find out what the story implies. I'm really still under the impression the precedent, and it's not a surprise to me at this point that this is the champion. He's got to be like the big bad. But I wonder what the connection is between him and the other contenders, as well as the president, because it's going to be a coin flip at this point if he's somebody who's like in full support of the Arcadian because he's like number one, or if he's completely unaware and either like wants the immortality thing of like being a championship, or like, you know what I mean? So it like we'll find out kind of what they do with this. I'm not entirely too sure, but I'm expecting him to be like a literal coin flip of either being like the big bad, similarly to like, Howling Blade and Brute Bomber, where like his life was made in the Arcadian, or if he's more sympathetic like Green and Sugar Riot and like Honey Bee and even like Black Cat, where like, he's like, oh, like I don't want to be part of this because like I'm scared. I was only here to like fight and I like combat, like whatever. So there's that. Officially, Tsukuyomi is the Unreal trial, which is very telling because people were either tossing it between her and Shinryu. Now, because it's Tsukuyomi Unreal, first of all, Tsukuyomi Unreal is hard. Harder than Suzaku, Seiryu, and Byakko, no questions asked, especially that meteor phase. So we'll see how that plays out in Party Finder. But also the other feature that they incorporated would be really cool. We'll find out about that too. And it also tells me that like because Shinryu isn't involved in the Unreal process at all, this is the final one. So that means that like now that we're concluded with like Stormblood Trials, because this is the fourth one, the next one's going to be Shadowbringers Trials going into point 5, which will be fascinating because it's gonna end up being Ruby Weapon, and like Ruby Weapon is a long fight with a cutscene and 2 phases, and like it's an Unreal, so like, yo, we'll see what happens. But otherwise, Tsukuyomi officially is the new Unreal. It also tells me though that like Shinryu could actually be involved in an ultimate. I'm under the impression, similarly to a lot of people, everyone's saying Ascian, but when I say Ascian, it's still a toss up between whether we're getting like Hades and Warrior of Light, or like Endwalker Ascians of like, Hesperos, Hephaestus, Athena, and that whole spiel. I'm under the impression right now that the ultimate we're getting in 7.5, because they did say that it's being worked on, is going to be Hades and Warrior of Light. My theory still holds like a little bit of water, where right now there is not a craftable Warrior of Light weapon with a glow effect on it. So I think that that'll be the skeleton used for the ultimate come 7.5. And so you can use that as like your preparation for the design for that weapon. And I'm expecting those to kind of come together and become like the Warrior Darkest Ultimate, like something of that nature. But we'll see. No information on the ultimate this patch. We'll get it next patch. So there's that. We officially got duty support system for both Zamal Darkhold and Aurum Vale. The arena for Aurum Vale obviously looks very different than what it looks like in the current version, so just keep that in mind. They made also a very unique change to duty support, and only duty support. If you've done the Mother Crystal trial, which is the Endwalker level 89 trial, there's currently a system in that trial with the fight where you have like, I'm gonna call it like a handicap, like a second chance situation. So if you die, like let's say you eat too many mechanics and you like, you know, just like fail, instead of resetting you back to the very beginning, it kind of gives you like a second wind of returning. This also happens in the finale of Endwalker. If you like lose, technically you kind of you know, you're like down for the count and you like recover and then you can go back again. I think that a lot of people who were actually doing the duty support system were not really a big fan of just like dying and then immediately teleporting back to the beginning and then going to run the content back again. I think it's a chance to give you like a second win to like complete the content. I'm aware of this too because some people have actually expressed like frustration and fear of doing some of the dungeon content from Dawn Trail because it's pretty challenging if you're like still very fresh and green to the game and you're trying to like learn it. So they're applying it to all of the duty support system stuff. It doesn't specify trust. It only implies duty support for now. So like we'll see when we get the actual full release in 7.4. But I'm under the impression it's also just duty support because trust is definitely like a I've done before already, so I can, you know, I know what to do, so I can go run the content and like there's that. But like we'll see when we get there. Now, big change that, I mean, I think that people were just not prepared for this either. We're getting a new frontline map/campaign. Wakor Shote. I mean, I don't think this is the name that you pronounce it, but like whatever. Now, whenever they announce a new frontline map/campaign, that means it's a new map and a new game mode at the same time. So it's not like it's like Crystalline Conflict where the gameplay is the same thing, but the map changes. So the way how you like go through the content is like strategically different. This is an entirely new game mode. So it's not the same as like Shatter or Seize or Nodum or Secure. And it looks like to me, so there's some B ranks, that's the triangles, the diamonds are like A ranks. It looks like it's like a capture point. So my immediate impression is like King of the Hill style, like maybe, but it's not going to be fighting over what looks like 1 point. It could be fighting over like a couple of points. So like for my Call of Duty people out there, if you know about domination, where it's kind of like Secure, I guess, to some degree, but I think that you either hold on to the point and you cap it and like it's there, which Secure has it already, or it's like King of the Hill where like you need people to stay in the point on a constant basis, and you either have to like defend the point or like attack the point and get the KO, and like we'll figure that out. So we'll see. Additionally, this is the first time ever that they've incorporated this, but the weather will actually change across the battle. Like time and actually have an effect on the way that the map like plays out. I'm assuming that changes like access points and certain points that are available and unavailable as a result of the weather changing, which I think is fascinating. And I love that they're making the PvP frontline maps like a little bit more chaotic. Secure, I know that it's one of my favorite game modes out of that because of the change allocated. So, you know, Seize, Shatter, and Nodum are technically well, Nodum is faster paced than Seize and Shatter, in my opinion. But they've also need to just change some of the functionalities that happen across the arena. Because like with Secure, there are like in arena events that happen, like with the tower at the top, for example. Like things change up there when you deal with certain things that are like beyond the control of the player base. And it looks like this map has that same effect. So we'll see if they apply that to this map and then also go back and change that for the other maps as well, because like Seize, Shatter, and Nodum are a little bit on the quieter side in terms of like the arena doing stuff. So it'd be cool if they kind of find a way to like make that work if they decide to make that work. So there you go. We got a new gold saucer mini game. They have us playing Air Force One through what looks like the Hullbreaker Isle dungeon, which is hilarious actually, to the point that like there's literally a final boss. that you get to encounter. I'm assuming you don't like defeat the boss. I'm sure that the tentacles kind of have like certain targets. You got to hit them, and then you get points as a result of it. I don't think you're like trying to like defeat the Kraken, but like the fact that the Kraken is like a boss in the event is pretty hilarious. Now, Phantom Weapon updates are officially here, coming into 7.4. I'm assuming 4.1. The item level has already been revealed to be 775, which is also the item level established for the trial of the Extreme with Hell, with the Doom Train 2, which is cool. So that'll be pretty sweet to see that that comes also into place. I'm expecting those weapons to also have like a glow effect. And to me right now, just based off of how they're releasing Phantom Weapon updates, it looks like it's following a similar pathway to what we saw in the Manderville weapon relics, where there's only going to be 4 weapons. You currently have like the per number weapons. You get the Umbre. We're going to get this version. It should give us a third stat, and we can probably pick and choose between which stats we want to like work with. But it's only 3. And then the final version will do the same thing, but it'll extend the number. And also that weapon will be best in slot in 7.5, but that's like later on, right? Now, I think as a result though, um, we'll we'll see. I'm hoping that they actually take the Baja route where they let you kind of customize the stats to the T. I think that it'd be great for them to like recycle the Baja weapons and let these become like the new Baja weapons. The problem though is that those weapons are going to be super overpowered for all the like legacy ultimates, which like whatever at this point. Like I mean, I care, but I know a lot of people don't care. So I just hope that they make it a choice that just makes sense. So like we'll see what that looks like. But we're officially getting new weapons update. There's also 3 new Phantom jobs added coming as well. We got Mystic Knight, Dancer, and Gladiator, which is really cool. They did already say that there was not going to be like a new like area like Fork Tower, like Magic, the normal and the 7th version is 7.5. The new area, the North Horn, will also come at 7.5. So this is just like a minor like medium-ish update. So we're getting new jobs, but we're also getting new accessories, and you can get 4 pieces of Disciple War and Magic each. So that means like earring, necklace, bracelet, and the ring. And they will actually increase your character's attributes when you're exploring OC, which is very familiar to I think the gear we've already acquired so far with all the stuff you get from like silver and gold. And then they can be obtained rarely from critical encounters, treasure chests, magic pots, and happy bunny. So it's not like a currency swapping system. You got to just go find them, which I actually like that quite a lot. And I'm hoping, although they didn't say this, so we'll see, but I'm hoping that you can exchange like because again, like it's either going to be like a coffer thing or they just give you one at random. So like if I'm playing tank and they give me like the maiming earring, that's cool. But if I get 2 maiming earrings, I'm hoping or wondering if I can just swap that out for like a fending one, and then that way I can still have a reason to go into the content, but not like hoard the same one like over and over again. So like we'll see what it looks like. And also with that, they also said that the ability of working on the Phantom weapons, you can do stuff inside of a Cold Crescent and outside. So there will be various duties that allows you to progressively work on it. It seems like to me that they're still going to commit to the tome thing. So just like as a FYI, right now, like with what Umber weapons, you have to do like that craftable thing, and then you got to do like the dailies for the 4 color things, and you can turn that in and then you can just exchange it for tomes. That's probably staying, where you do like a one-time thing and then you just like unlock the vendor to get the weapons, which is fine. But they did say that they are planning to change that out moving forward with how they allow you to acquire the relics. Right now the relic system has been a little kind of like not to people's favor. I think that they had it perfect in Baja, and then people sort of were like not okay with it in Endwalker. I know people hated the Endwalker version because Tomes was like all like kind of bad. The Cold Crescent one, I think that they took a stab to kind of like make the blend of the two, and it's been like a swing and like a miss in some cases. So it seems to me they're going to be just changing it entirely how they operate moving forward when it comes to the relic stuff. But like we won't know about that at all until we get to 8.11. So we kind of just vibe out with these current relics until we get to there. We have a new Cosmic Exploration star for Cosmic Exploration, which is incredible. Oasis, I think it's called. Very different type of star to be navigating. The immediate impression for me was a combination of like Sea of Clouds meets Ultima Thule, like kinda. And they're making a small change to this, which again, like based off of feedback, there's going to be lore bits established for why Oasis is the way that it is. Apparently, based off of the transition established, it was once a civilized planet star that just suddenly something changed with the gravity, and like obviously can use like floating rocks is kind of crazy. So something happened, and now all of a sudden like the world is barren, but there's still things to figure out and explore. So there's gonna be like lore bits that allow you to kind of understand like why the planet is the way that it is, because Fianna and Sinus Ardorum don't really. I mean, like Sinus Ardorum makes sense though. Like it's pretty standard. It's like, hey, like new moon close by. We're gonna just go check it out. But Fianna is like almost like an alien planet looking thing, and there's no lore implication behind it as to why we're there. But we're just like exploring it outside of the quest line that they established for us. So Oasis is gonna have like actual lore implications, and hopefully they use it to go adjust some thoughts behind why Fianna is there and like send the same thing. But yeah, new star. With New Star, however, has new tools. They already revealed the cosmic tools to be 765, which is pretty standard. Those designs, by the way, were incredible. That's really, really cool. And there are going to be new rewards. You're going to be able to exchange them for cosmic credits as normal. And there is also going to be a cosmic fortune prize, which means like a new currency as well. So they're still going to follow the same suit in terms of the content for the thing that they had from Fianna, which is cool. And then also there's new tokens, which people were really enjoying the tokens, EX missions, things for the exchange. I thought that was awesome, and I'm glad that they're still doing that too. And sorry to flashbang, but now we have ourselves the most Kingdom Hearts like Pictomancer portrait looking thing that I've ever seen in this game. And I was really cracking up to this too. Because I'm like, there's just no way that this is like what I think it is, right? But it is in fact the variant dungeon, Merchant's Tale. Now, it makes a lot of sense why it looks like this, because we're literally like etherically like teleporting into a book and actually going to like the 100 Acre Woods as established by Kingdom Hearts 1. Now with that, we have like this typical flow of content, right? We got the variant dungeons, then we got the Criterion, then you got the Criterion Savage. That's the current flow of dungeons. Um, and they've pretty much explained how the variant dungeon works. Now I do want to make something very clear before I continue to explain this. During the FanFest live letter from I want to say it was like the European one, they said that they were going to be variant dungeons, as in like more than one. This is the first one that we're receiving across the entire expansion. I'm curious as to why they waited to release one for 7.4, but I think it's still them trying to experiment with how they release content in terms of their scheduling. So like we'll see. I think again they took like a gamble with how the people were gonna go through the content. And we made it this far currently to 7.3. And genuinely, if what they're gonna do with Variant and Criterion is what I think they're gonna do, then I think that they can make it very easy and simple adjustments to make this functionality work across the next expansion and be perfect by design. So here's my thought process before we go into it, because like we won't know until the second live letter. Basically, I think they're doing away with Savage is what I understood. Criterion Savage is no longer a thing. It's just Criterion, right? So normally you have limited revivals. You have like one per person. You go through the bosses, defeat them in a certain order. You get to the end, you get cool rewards, and that potentially like a mount thing, and like it's really cool. And normally when you complete Criterion Dungeon normal, you unlock Criterion Savage. But they didn't really make any mention about Savage, which is why I think I'm under the impression that they're just not creating a Savage. But variant dungeon, right? You go through the pathways, you fight the bosses, then they take those three bosses and they convert them over into like a gauntlet, right? But due to the feedback received about variant dungeons, we actually have a new style type of variant dungeon called Variant Dungeon Advanced. And just to quickly sum it up, basically it's Criterion Dungeon, but like it's easier. Or it's Variant Dungeon, but like it's harder. You don't pick and explore routes and do like the storyline stuff to get to the end. It just puts you in the middle. The arena will split into three different directions, or the pathways in three different directions, and you can essentially just fight each of the bosses. You still get to use variant abilities. So I don't think that this content necessarily has like an enrage. I think it's just Variant Dungeon, but things hit harder. And they actually have mechanics that can cause you to fail. I would like to think that there is an enrage, but I think because it's specifically called Variant Dungeon Advanced and not something different, that there is no enrage, because Variant Dungeons don't have an enrage. So we'll see. But you can pick whichever one you want. Now each boss drops a reward, and then if you beat all three bosses in one attempt, then you get like a bigger reward that is dropped as a result of that. I'm assuming like you gotta get it in the middle, which like is cool. And so here is the full infographic about the dungeon systems. So Variant Dungeon is full dungeon exploration. You can solo it, you can go with 4 players. The one thing that they did not mention during this, which like I fascinating, you can actually use the Variant Dungeon to level up. Now they also specify that you can level up from level 90 to 100, not 91. In Pilgrim's Traverse, you have to go to level 91, as in like you must be able to access the first dungeon of Dawntrail to go into the dungeon of Pilgrim's Traverse, but they don't have that for Variant. You can go in at level 90 and then go to 100. So like, let's say for example you just job skip and acquire like Samurai, you can just start at level 90 Samurai and then just keep doing Variant Dungeon and go to 100, which is awesome. You can play with any party formations. You can have 4 tanks, 3 healers, 2 DPS, solo player, whatever you want to play, and you get the abilities. Then they give you the back-to-back boss battles. So I think that Variant Dungeon, for me, it feels like there's Variant Dungeon, and then like Advanced is like the hard mode. Like if you think about like Ifrit normal and like Ifrit hard, I feel like it's kind of sort of like that. Where there's stronger versions of the 3 bosses. And also, you can't solo advance. You can play with 2 players though. So like tank DPS, 2 healers, that sort of thing. You can still have any orientation, but you must be level 100. So it does tell me that there are at least 2 player mechanics that like you will, you could fail the fight actually if you don't do it correctly. So like we'll see. And then there's Criterion where you get like the hard, high end difficulty content where it's 4 players, 100. You must have 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS, and you will do the content. Now here's the problem. But before I talk about the problem, I want to showcase to you the incredible outfits that they established from the Variant Dungeon. I'm assuming it's Variant. Just so you know in advance, everybody and their mother is wearing that top piece in Limbs to Limits, Gridania, and Ul'dah, no questions asked. So get ready to see a lot of AFKers wear that chest piece. The one on the left, by the way. Right one's cool though. Although I'm not sure how it like looks. I feel like it's like it almost looks like one piece, but it's 2 pieces. But like, it's fire actually. But this GLAM set's fire. I saw this and I was immediately like, oh my god, I gotta buy it. So I can't wait to meet you at Limited wearing that gear too. So there you go. But going back to this, they don't really further extend on the rewards that you can acquire from this. They only gave us the teaser of those 2 GLAM sets and amounts, which like the mount is cool. I won't spoil it too much. But it does raise a couple of eyebrows for me personally. So here's my thought process. I was hoping that the Criterion Dungeon would obviously drop a reward on the title and that sort of thing for the dungeon, but I kind of thought that the exquisite weapon thing was really cool. I wanted them to go back. So I think Aloe Island was a very great concept in terms of creating like the Variant Dungeon, the Criterion, and then the Savage, and then the Savage gives you like weapons that are almost Ultimate-esque, because like Criterion Dungeon is like an Ultimate Dungeon, Gauntlet, 1 pull through, like whatever. And like the problem is that like Criterion Savage content is the least completed content out of sheer interest, but it's not because it was like it wasn't like a success, but it wasn't like a fail. The problem with the Criterion Savage is that there's no reward for doing it outside of a title. That's the biggest problem. If there were weapons that you can acquire, which they already technically exist in the form of the tome weapons, you just got to add a glow effect and like boom, right? They haven't really addressed that they would go back and go do that for any of the other content that we have through here as well, which does raise an eyebrow for me as well. So if there is no more Criterion Savage, then I kind of sort of need them to go back and fix Sildon and Mount Rockon, either by putting exquisite weapons in there or doing something to help like the process that is with Criterion Savage. I think that what they can do is this, because they didn't do this, but like again, feature feedback for the future. If you're listening, like here, Variant Dungeon and Variant Dungeon Advanced is incredible. I love that a lot. But I think Criterion Dungeon and Criterion Dungeon Advanced should be a thing. They don't have that here. Now, of course, you're like, what's the difference? I think Criterion Dungeon should be... It's not going to make any sense because it should be backwards. But I think Criterion Dungeon Advanced should be the normal version of Criterion Dungeon. Because right now in Criterion Dungeon, you go through 3 bosses in an order, and they're supposed to like incrementally get more difficult, right? I think that Criterion Dungeon Advanced should be like the easier version, which again, like it's backwards. And essentially, it will let you pick one of the 3 bosses. You get the reward, right? And you can kind of go through it and like complete it as you see fit. and then you can get gear pieces from it that you can use. I think that there should be gear you can acquire. Like, I think that boss 1 should drop like accessories, gear 2 drops like left side stuff, and then gear 3 drops like a weapon. And it's going to be the same like item level, for example, as like the crafted weapon, for example, and then the Criterion dungeon, like the hard version, like the Savage, if you will, would basically be like raid worthy, right? As in, like, you can almost, like, it can be competition bis between that and the raid version. The problem though is Criterion Savage is much much harder than whatever like M12 is going to become. Like it is, right? Because like it'll be twice as long, because M12 will probably be like a 13-minute fight. Criterion is 20 something minutes, longer than most ultimates. That's not good. So it makes sense that they took out Criterion Savage as a result, if they did take it out. But I think that they should still create Criterion Dungeon and like make an advanced version to be like side content, because again, the good thing is that like Criterion Dungeon is coming out with the raid tier. It didn't do that prior. It usually came out like during the Alliance raid, right? So it was always raid tier, then we got Ultimate, and then Criterion Dungeon. So if they released a raid tier with Criterion Dungeon, it's actually perfect for them to kind of create like horizontal progress to work towards best in slot for the upcoming Ultimate in 7.5. So we'll see what they do with this here. I'm not immediately under the impression though that they're doing that, which I think like really, really sucks. Because I think that this game would benefit significantly from more side content, and Criterion Dungeon could fit that piece if they make it work. But we'll see what they do. It's too soon to tell. The strategy board's officially here. It's actually coming at 7.4. They wanted to perfect it. It needs to function just as good, if not better, than like the toolbox and the raid plan and all that stuff that we use outside of 14. Because obviously it needs to be perfect. This needs to be the way that people operate when it comes to putting things in the party finder. Because right now, having all these horrendous various raid plan toolboxes links is so terrible now. So the fact that we officially have a strategy board and calling it a strategy board, I want everybody who makes raid guides to go back and redo all their raid guides and use this instead, so that way there's an accessible link that people can access to be able to go through it in game via console, regardless of being on PC or not. I think that would be stellar. I plan on actually starting my own guides if people may have like an intrigue, using this board. So that way you can be like, hey guys, welcome to a guide using the strategy board guide. My name is whatever. So hopefully you guys start using this. Please do, because they worked really hard to make this like a thing. It's officially coming 7.4. This is fire. Then we got like the most like random update UI feature ever, the command panel, which is actually very, very interesting in comparison to what I was expecting for us to receive as like a miscellaneous like systematic change. What it basically does is, if you're a mouse and keyboard player, which I'm not, you're gonna have like hotbars on like the right side of like your jobs, and like you're gonna have like emotes and like your your teleports and your returns, whatever, and you're going to be able to put them on in this command panel. So basically any hotbar, any macro button that you can put on a hotbar can go inside there. Now they also specified that like it's got 4 pages and each page is 25 slots. That's 100 slots. That makes it a lot easier for a lot of reasons. So you can put like your job stuff in there. You can put like your emotes up there. Anything that goes on a hotbar can go inside of there. And then the best part about all of it too is that it's all accessible via another button that you can put on the hotbar. So you can press one button and access all of these pages, which like I think is awesome actually, because those buttons will now exist on your hotbar. Now, as me being a controller player, I'm not too pleased. It's fine though, like I'll see it for myself when I get it, but them not showing what it looks like from the controller perspective would have been kind of like nice. But I'm under the impression that like if I put it on like my 4th hotbar, because right now on my hotbar, my 5th hotbar has like 16 jobs, because like controller players only can hold 16, right? And then on my other hotbar I have like the remaining jobs. So like I have tanks, melees, like caster, and like healers. But then on my other hotbar I have like Viper, Ninja, like in like P range. So now all of those can just sit comfortably in the command panel, which is fire actually. And not to mention I can put other things in there as well. So I can take 100 buttons and put it inside of one button. Now, it's not too understandable how to access that. I'm assuming that because of the way how the UI shows it over here, you may not be able to toggle between the pages on the command panel. Like if I press like 1, I probably can't access 2, 3, and 4. If I can't do that, they should look into that. But I'm assuming that I will take 100 buttons and put it into 4 buttons, which is stellar because that means like, you know, one page could be all of my like disciples of like war and magic. 2 could be like my crafters and like food and potions and like that sort of thing. 3 could probably be like emotes, and then 4 could be just miscellaneous macros that I use for crafting or something else, you know. So we'll see what that looks like. But honestly, this is a really cool change. I was very surprised by them incorporating, and I'm looking forward to being able to experiment and figure out how it works. And that's about it. Now, there are still a lot of things that I need to like talk about and address that have not been considered into this patch live letter. And I don't expect them to provide that information going into part 2 either. First of all, there's no information about Blue Mage or Beastmaster, and I'm glad that they like announced it. And we've already known that Blue Mage and Beastmaster are like limited jobs. Beastmaster coming 7.5, but the level cap is supposed to get established as well for level 90 for Blue Mage, and um us not getting that like at all right now is like it's not like alarming, but it's kind of like, you know, like where is it, right? So it's expected now that the level cap and the release of Beastmaster will come out together, so that you can get Beastmaster and Blue Mage, assuming, to level 90, which will be fine, but it's kind of been a long wait for Blue Mage and Beastmaster content. But speaking of that as well, since there is no Blue Mage update whatsoever, it's still kind of like, you know, why are you working on this if like we don't really like make it a more like commonality thing? Because like for me, I think that one thing that this game needs to incorporate with Blue Mage and Beastmaster, especially with it on the way, is a system that allows people to like do it more frequently. Like a daily is more so what I'm leaning towards. A Blue Mage daily would be really, really nice. A Beastmaster daily would be nice, where you can have like a limited job daily should absolutely be incorporated. So that people can do that, which is really cool. I think also with the release of the new Merchant's Tale variant dungeon, there should be a variant dungeon daily as well, especially because like you can level up in um Merchant's Tale, and also all the prior ones are also like level 90 accessible. So the fact that that's a thing, they should just all be like level upable. Like there's like another way you can like level through that, which is cool, but I, you know, it's kind of like what. Um and then also they plug this at the end, random out of nowhere, about adding more like what do they call it? They called it like outside like overworld content basically. So that means like hunts and fate trains and like that sort of thing. But like they said that for like a future like a future expansion thing. They just randomly plugged in that they're gonna make like overworld content. Now what that means is no idea, because like they didn't say anything else about it. But they were like, yeah, we would just like, you know, we're working on like a thing in the future where like there's like more interactions outside of the overworld, so that people don't AFK like in Limsa and Gridania and whatnot. They didn't say all that detail, but they were like, oh yeah, we're just working on it. And it's like, okay, cool. What do you mean though? So we have a problem right now where like they love to give us information, but then not give us information. You know, they just kind of like translate things and say things, and it's kind of like, what? And then it's like, okay, bye. And then they just freaking like leave. And then it is like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? So like, we'll see what we look at when the future patches are to come. But again, like 8.0 is expected to be a very big expansion with a lot of changes coming in with the history. And I think this patch is also starting to showcase a little bit of that, right? With like the criterion change. We got like a little bit with like the quantum change. They're planning on getting rid of like the system currently in terms of like relics and other things as well. So again, like there's a lot to think about and put into like perspective. Um, so we'll see when we get there. But like yeah. Now that being said though, we got to talk about the slightly smaller elephant in the room. So when you think about it now, because like obviously this patch 7.4 part 2 comes out in like a month, we'll get to see some visuals, right? We'll get like an idea of like what the tome gear looks like, what the raid gear looks like, the PvP gear, the crafted gear, you know, anything about more details to follow, like visually, like the new mounts, minions, glam, etc., whatever. But then we get 7.5, and 7.5 is usually the longest patch cycle between then and like the release of 8.0, which makes sense because like, you know, they just work on that. But now they're giving us like there's a lot of content coming out in 7.5, right? Because when you think about it, let's go down the freaking list. We got new MSQ, part 1 and part 2, which like we need. Then we're gonna get a new dungeon. Then we get a new trial. Then we got the Alliance one. We're gonna get the third FF11 Alliance, right? Then we get the Ultimate. Then we're gonna also have a variant dungeon, because they did say that they were going to add more than one at the keynote way long ago, right? Then we're going to get the final moon from Cosmic Exploration. Then we're going to also get the new Occult Crescent area. That's going to be the new world of Northhorn, as well as the final step of the relic, and the Fork Tower magic, and the Savage version of that too, right? And oh my gosh, am I missing anything else? Probably. Um, like, long story short, there's a lot. There's a lot of things coming between like point 0.5 and the release of the keynote. Now, here's what I think though. It it being almost like a 2-year wait to get all that content in point 0.5, I think is very cool. But telling us that 2 years prior is like is kind of like wild. Um I'm almost under the impression that the keynote for next expansion should focus a little bit about what we're going to be seeing in like the far distant future, and then just surprise us with the, because like we're all humans, right? Like being surprised with the wow factor is like incredible, because like the strategy board was not a mention whatsoever during the keynote from prior for Dawn Trail, and them making the announcement for it was like, oh my gosh, people were freaking out about it. Same thing with like the ultimate, right? We got the ultimate noticed very early, and people were kind of like freaking out over the design for it, and then the ultimate came out and people were content with it, right? So, and then like the variant dungeon, the same thing. They made the mention of the variant dungeon, but we didn't get one until 7.4. Now, I think that with the order and structure of how they're going to be operating going into 8.0, it's okay for now with how the content's coming out release schedule wise now. But it seems as if like it's very backloaded with content for 7.5, which makes sense because it's the longest wait time between that and 8.0. But that means that there's probably a likelihood there are certain things that happened in like say 7.5 that they could or 7.4 as well. Hell, even 7.3, they can trickle in like 1 and 2. But I think also because they're already under this plan of incorporating even more content into the game, um fingers crossed that there's like more things to look forward to that we can keep that can keep us like subbed in for like a long time, right? People want reasons to keep on playing the game across the entire expansion's life cycle. And so hopefully they find a method going into 8.0 with that, because right now they're not going to be able to do it with 7.4, 7.5. But I hope that with the feedback that they've been receiving over the course of time between 7.2 and today, that they can put that into 8.0. So we'll see. Because again, like if there's one thing that I'm still kind of like keeping an eye out for key wise is like not the criterion, the chaotic dungeon. Chaotic Alliance raid is A1 peak S tier plus content. We only got one, and it was at the very beginning of the expansion, which is fine because they made that notice at the keynote. So I'm wondering if how they design content moving forward with the combination of like the ultimate for 7.1 and 7.5, if there's wiggle room for them to actually work on producing content in the middle, because like 2 3 kind of little, not like empty, but people were looking for like a reason to like something. So like we'll see. And I think also they've been working a lot on doing other things that are like quality of life stuff, right? Because like they're doing the graphic changes. They gave us the full restriction of freedom on GLAM. They're still doing like duty support and like dungeon updates, right? So there's still other things we're waiting on. Like I think Dusk Vigil and Sheesh with the Violent Tides are still 2 dungeons that are completely unaccounted for. That and also every single hard dungeon. So there's still a ton of things that they're still working on that's like back-ended, like older content that they're still working on to have it function unlike a today's scenario. So there's still a lot of work to be done, right? So fingers crossed that they got all this worked out, that going into 8.0, they can give us like a proper schedule on content that keeps us like subbed in every single weekly month, because that's what everyone wants. People want a reason to play the game every single day. And I'm thinking that the dev team knows this now, despite the fact that they want us to go out and play other games. But people don't really want to play other games. They want to play this game all the time. I can attest to that as somebody who's logged in every single freaking day. And so fingers crossed that they figure it out. I will say though, 10 out of 10 live letter for sure. And like they absolutely cooked with it too, so that's really cool. But yeah, I'm really happy and content with the patch and notes so far for the announcements. We'll see 7.2 or 7.4 part 2 like later on. And this is definitely still like a long video, but it's at least I give you I give you the big bread and butter at the very beginning. And again, this is an overview, like thoughts and opinion about like how I feel about the content so far going into the 7.4 patch. and there's still more to come. So I'm excited. But thank you for watching and tuning in as always. And let me know what you think. I think that people are going to be very extremely happy about the GLAM thing, but still divided behind like some of the content. Also, I think that people are trying to get transitions still like established behind like what he's talking about and theorizing what content we may be seeing into 7.45 and 8.0. But like we'll find out more about that when we get there. But until then, y'all take care.